This fire boiled a full quart of water in 6 minutes and produced 0 visible smoke. No chimney, no special equipment, no fuel other than dead sticks I gathered in 4 minutes from the edge of my yard. I measured the combustion temperature at the fire chamber with a probe thermometer, 1040 degrees Fahrenheit. A standard open campfire in the same conditions peaks at approximately 600 degrees and produces a smoke column visible from a quarter-mile away. The Dakota Fire Hole produces twice the heat, uses half the wood, and the smoke vanishes before it clears the ground surface. Here is the exact dig schematic, the airflow physics, and every number I measured. Before I show you how to build it, I want to be clear about where this design comes from, because I did not invent any of it. None of what you are about to see is new. I did not invent it. Nobody alive did. The Dakota Fire Hole, also called the trench fire or ground furnace, was documented in use by the Lakota Sioux and other Northern Plains nations for centuries prior to European contact, specifically as a hunting camp fire design that concealed the position of the camp by eliminating visible smoke and light. Captain Meriwether Lewis recorded observations of similar ground combustion fire designs in his expedition journals in 1804, noting that certain plains encampments he observed produced cooking heat with no visible smoke column, even in cold, dry air, when an open fire would have been clearly visible. Military field manuals from the First World War, specifically the British Army's Field Engineering and Pioneer Duties Manual published in 1914, documented the same design under the name trench cooker for use in forward trench positions where an open fire would have drawn artillery fire. The United States Army Survival Manual FM 2176, still in print today, includes the Dakota Fire Hole as a standard field expedient fire for exactly the same tactical reasons. The design has been independently developed on at least 3 continents because the physics that makes it work is the same everywhere. So let me show you exactly why it works before I show you how to dig it. You already know that fire needs 3 things: fuel, heat, and oxygen. You have known this since school. What most people have never thought through carefully is that the limiting factor in an open campfire is not fuel and not heat. It is oxygen delivery. An open fire pulls combustion air from all directions at the surface level, which means the air path is long, diffuse, and inefficient. Cold ambient air mixes with the hot combustion gases before they reach the burning fuel, which drops combustion temperature and produces incomplete combustion. Incomplete combustion is what produces smoke. Smoke is unburned carbon particles suspended in combustion gases. A fire that burns completely produces carbon dioxide and water vapor, both of which are invisible. A fire that burns incompletely produces the visible gray and black smoke column that every campfire makes. The Dakota Fire Hole solves this through a simple geometry change. Instead of an open fire on the surface, you dig 2 connected chambers underground. The main combustion chamber holds the fuel and is where the fire burns. A separate angled air channel, dug from the surface at a distance of about 12 to 16 inches, connects to the base of the combustion chamber. This angled tunnel acts like a bellows feeding directly into the base of the fire where combustion oxygen is needed most. The ground itself becomes the insulating wall of the combustion chamber, holding heat in instead of letting it radiate away in all directions, the way an open fire does. Think of it like the difference between trying to boil water in an open pan on a windy day and boiling water in a closed pot. The same heat source produces dramatically different results depending on whether it is contained or exposed. Here is the part that gets me every time. The airflow through the underground tunnel is driven entirely by the temperature differential between the cold ambient air and the hot combustion chamber. No bellows, no fan, no mechanical assistance. The hot fire creates a low-pressure zone at the combustion chamber because hot air rises rapidly. The external air channel connects at the base of that low-pressure zone, and cold, dense air from outside flows in to fill it continuously, feeding the fire with a steady, directed stream of oxygen. This is the same principle as every wood-burning stove ever built, concentrated into a hole you can dig with a stick in 15 minutes. The geometry creates a draft. The draft creates complete combustion. Complete combustion eliminates smoke. Here is what you need to build one. And I want to be honest with you. This is genuinely it. You need a digging tool. A standard garden trowel works. A sturdy stick sharpened to a point works in softer soil. Free or about $8 to $12 if you need to purchase a trowel. You need fuel wood. Dry hardwood sticks between 1/2 inch and 1.5 inches in diameter work best. Greenwood, or softwood like pine, produces more creosote and more incomplete combustion. Dead dry sticks gathered from ground level in any wooded area are free. You need something to cook on or cook in. A pot, a pan, a flat rock, whatever you already have. You need a fire starting method. Matches, a lighter, a flint striker, whatever is your preference. Total cost if you already own a trowel and have matches $0. If you need to purchase a trowel, $8 to $12. Everything you need to source is listed in the description below and in the first pinned comment. Now here is the exact dig schematic I used, which produced the 1040-degree result and the 6-minute water boil. Mark 2 spots on the ground approximately 12 to 14 inches apart. These will be the openings of your combustion chamber and your air channel. Face the air channel opening into the prevailing wind direction, if there is any wind at all. Even a slight breeze dramatically accelerates draft through the underground tunnel and improves combustion temperature. Dig the combustion chamber first. The shape should be a cylinder approximately 8 inches in diameter and 8 to 10 inches deep. Straight sides are more important than you might expect because they create an even draft pull around the circumference of the fire. Tapered or irregular sides create turbulence that disrupts the draft pattern. Use your trowel to cut clean vertical sides and scrape the bottom flat. The bottom of the combustion chamber is where your fire will rest and where the air channel meets. Now dig the air channel. Start your dig from the second marked point on the surface and angle downward toward the base of the combustion chamber. The tunnel should enter the combustion chamber at ground level of the chamber floor, not partway up the wall. Entry at the base maximizes the draft effect because it delivers cold, dense air directly to the hottest point of the fire. The tunnel diameter should be approximately 3 to 4 inches throughout its length, just wide enough for strong airflow, but narrow enough to create velocity. Think of it like the difference between blowing through a wide hose and blowing through a straw. The straw delivers more directed force with the same lung pressure. Here is where most people ruin the fire. They dig the air channel entry point partway up the wall of the combustion chamber rather than at the floor. This seems intuitive because you can see the combustion chamber from above when digging. So it is tempting to aim for the visible center of the wall. But the entry point must be at floor level. Draft works by pulling air into the base of the rising heat column. An entry point on the wall above the fire base delivers air into the middle of the flame rather than beneath it, which disrupts the combustion geometry and produces irregular, smoky burning. Clear any loose soil from both chambers. Loose soil falling into the combustion chamber during the first fire will choke airflow at the base where the tunnel enters. After your initial dig, use your fingers to wipe the walls and floor of both chambers clear before lighting anything. Build your fire in the combustion chamber. Start with very fine tinder directly above the air channel entry point at the base. Add progressively larger fuel above the tinder layer in a loose cone shape that allows airflow between the pieces. Light the tinder through the combustion chamber opening from above. As the initial flame catches, you will feel air moving through the air channel within the first 30 to 60 seconds, which tells you the draft is established. Add fuel through the top opening as needed, keeping pieces no wider than 1.5 inches for the first 5 minutes while the combustion temperature climbs. Place your cooking pot or pan directly over the combustion chamber opening. The chamber opening becomes the burner surface. The pot sits on the rim of the hole, directly above the concentrated heat column rising from below. In my test, a full quart of tap water at 62 degrees Fahrenheit reached a rolling boil at the 6-minute mark with a fire that had been burning for 4 minutes before I placed the pot. Now for the thermal signature test. Stand 10 feet away from your fire after it is burning well and look at the combustion chamber opening. In good conditions, you should see a slight heat shimmer above the opening, but no visible smoke. Pass your hand through the air above the chamber at a height of about 2 feet. The air should feel noticeably warm, confirming the fire is burning hot, but you should see nothing. Smoke visible at 2 feet above the opening means incomplete combustion, which means either wet fuel, insufficient draft from the air channel, or a blocked tunnel entry point at the chamber base. If you want to go deeper into off-grid cooking methods, historical fire techniques, and the heritage cooking approaches that produced real food under real field conditions, the Lost Frontier Handbook covers exactly that terrain. It maps out off-grid cooking methods from Dutch ovens to fire pit techniques, with the recipes and approaches that made field cooking genuinely satisfying rather than just functional. You will see a QR code in the bottom right corner of your screen right now. Point your phone camera at it, and it will take you directly there. At 6 minutes post-ignition, the combustion chamber is at operating temperature, and your cooking surface is fully active. At 15 minutes, the fire has consumed the initial fuel load and is ready for the first fuel addition. You add 3 to 4 sticks through the top opening without disrupting the draft. At 30 minutes, you have maintained continuous cooking heat with 2 fuel additions, using approximately half the wood a comparable open fire would have consumed. At 1 hour, the fire is still burning hot, and the combustion chamber walls have absorbed enough heat to sustain combustion during brief pauses in active fueling. An open campfire producing similar cooking heat in the same conditions requires approximately 2 to 3 times the fuel volume to compensate for the heat radiated sideways instead of upward. The open fire also produces a smoke column visible at distance and requires constant attention to wind direction to keep smoke away from the cooking area. The Dakota Fire Hole produces no smoke column, directs all heat upward into the cooking surface, and uses less fuel per minute of cooking time than any open surface fire design I have tested. This is not really about tactical concealment or military applications. Those are interesting parts of the history. But the practical significance is simpler than that. It is about a fire design that uses half the wood, cooks faster, and requires no special materials beyond a digging tool and dry sticks. It is about the specific satisfaction of watching a full quart of water reach a boil in 6 minutes from a fire that produces no visible output above ground level. And the Lost Frontier Handbook sits on my workbench for exactly the moments when I want to connect a technique like this to a broader system of off-grid skills. It is the kind of resource that turns individual techniques into a coherent way of thinking about cooking and survival outside modern infrastructure. The QR code in the bottom right corner of your screen will take you directly there whenever you are ready. I do not want you to dig a Dakota fire hole in your backyard without checking local ordinances about open fires first. Start by understanding the schematic. Draw it out. Mark the 2 chamber positions. Understand the relationship between the air channel entry point and the combustion chamber floor before you pick up a shovel. If you can dig it legally and safely, dig one in the smallest workable size, about 6 inches in diameter for the combustion chamber, just to prove the draft to yourself. Light a small fire. Watch the smoke disappear. If this trench fire changed the way you think about combustion and heat, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing practical wisdom that the modern world has tried to bury. Build what the wind cannot find. The next treasure of forgotten knowledge will be revealed soon.